During an ambush by Iraqi insurgents, Marine Corporal Jason Dunham of New York landed on a hand grenade thrown by an Iraqi insurgent. In doing so, Corporal Dunham saved the lives of 2 of his fellow Marines. Last Friday, he would have turned 25 years old.
Something like you have your name on it. Haley?
You're good? You're good? How much not good?
I believe they were on patrol, and they come across some kids, and they were kicking a soccer ball around, and Jason wanted to get involved. So the guys formed a circle for him, a safety circle they called it, and Jason proceeded to play soccer with the kids. I believe this went on for about 30 minutes from what we understand, and they all had a good time and interaction. Jason loves kids.
I asked Mark, I said, you know, I know this wasn't probably military, you know, protocol. I said, how come you guys did that? And he just looked at me as if though I were asking him a really dumb question. He goes, well, it was Dunham. And that was it. That was just his answer. It was Dunham.
To him, they were just kids. And he liked kids. And I think his men they must have had great respect for him to just do something like this.
Jason was always a very friendly student. He would be one of these people that would meet you in the hall and say, "Hi, Mr. Hallett, how are you doing today?" Always had that nice smile on his face.
Jason was a fun-loving boy who was always willing to help anybody with anything, very devoted to his family and his friends, and you couldn't have asked for a nicer kid. I mean, he just was always happy, always smiling. No matter what, he just had that smile that would, you know, win you over.
Yeah, you know, he'd walk in the room and he could just tell he was up to something with that smile, and you just had to figure out what he just did. But, you know, it wouldn't have been anything terrible, but, you know, maybe he'd hid something on you or just done something, you know, just to get your goat a little bit. But, you know, he always did it with a smile, and, you know, it was all in good fun. It was never malicious. That's what I always appreciated about him.
Okay, I had Jason in class in biology, sophomore, and he tended to act up once in a while. And the one day I walked up to him and leaned over and whispered to him, "Jason, either you stop it or I'm going to kick your ass." And he just pulled back and looked up at me and gave me the smile that everybody talks about and said, "Okay, Mr. White." And we both knew that he could have snapped me like a pretzel right then, but it was just that face, that smile and that smirk is what everybody remembers about him around here. He is a bit more mature than the rest of them. Yeah. I'm sure having his mother in school made a difference too. That made a little bit of difference.
Am I going to hurt you, honey? Yeah. How much? Don't do that. He's going to the Grammys.
I think that was the day that the shells were coming in too. I think they were being mortared that day. He said that happened every day. And he said, "Hang on a minute." And the phone went dead. And a few minutes later, he called back and said they were being mortared. He had to get under a building, but not to worry because they were lousy shots.
Turn memory.
She was in the store and I come walking in. She goes, "What? Hey, mister, are you married?" And I looked at her and she said, "You want to come home with me?" And I looked at her and said, "No, I can do better." don't remember whether. Yeah, but that you scared me. I was scared.
He was my big brother. He was a friend for a lot of people.
He didn't care what other people thought about him. He taught me that. Don't really listen to what people have to say about you. Just do what you do and care about what you want to do and how you feel about yourself.
He was very funny. Anybody that met him laughed. No matter what, he could make you laugh. He could just smile and make you laugh.
He was what a big brother is for everybody. He's who you look up to, who you want to be like. You know, he was really great at sports, so you want to strive for that.
In sports and everything, he would always play a lot. I would sit the bench. He always told me after the games, don't let it worry you. I was good at schoolwork. He really wasn't.
My brothers mean everything to me, and they're always there. He never could say no to me. Mom laughs about it because if I wanted something, Jason, he gave it to me, and that is just, I think that was his personality, to do anything for anybody else.
Let me tell you some stories about your daughter that you may not know.
I want to hear them.
Because she told me, this is before me.
When I heard about it, how I heard what he had actually done was, Dan and Deb weren't even home yet. And a reporter called from the TV station. And they were going to come over to the house. I said, absolutely not. Don't even come in town. Don't run any cameras. Their other two children did not know yet because Dan and Deb wanted to come to the school and pick them up and tell them. I said, you need to stay as far away from that house as possible right now. And I will let my son make that decision on what they want to do later on. We were just all in a state. Excuse me. And he said, ma'am, but you don't understand what your grandson done. I said, I understand he died. I said, do I need to know anything else at this point? And he says, yes, you do. He threw himself on a grenade to save his men. And I thought, well, how like Jason would do that?
Yeah, you got a letter.
I got a letter, and it was weird. It was just, the letter basically was, a goodbye. He said, don't worry, Mom, I'll be home when the time is right. Tell everybody I love them.
Camp Cruceba is being mortared every day, and we heard some explosions. Assumed that they were mortars hitting Lehman Company's firm base. Good opportunity for us to get in behind the insurgents and catch them in the act. So came down off a building and grabbed Dunham and asked what he thought, and said it sounded like Lehman was getting hit. I said, well, let's go get those.
As we were about 100 meters out the gate, we heard a series of explosions. Those explosions we thought were mortar rounds, but later on what it was is those were RPGs impacting on Lieutenant Colonel Lopez's convoy.
RPG flew over the truck in front of mine. We realized we'd arrived at the ambush site, so we unasked the trucks and started to push west or south into the HK to clear out the ambush site.
Once that happened, we immediately halted the vehicles, got out, dismounted. Corporal Dunham got set up in a series of teams, his 2 fire teams.
We dismounted there and started satellite patrolling through the HK Triangle, which is a triangle between Karabala and Huseba. And we got back in there. We noticed some traffic that was backed up, and that's usually not there, so we decided to go ahead and stop and check it.
I didn't know at the time, but it was my assumption that these vehicles were trying to get out of the area and they were trying to avoid one of the blocking positions that one of the other vehicles or some of the other Marine units had done.
Staff Sergeant Ferguson said, hey, we got to stop and check these. So they started checking vehicles, and Corporal Dunham went for the second vehicle in the column, which was a white Toyota Land Cruiser.
I was on the passenger side, Corporal Dunham was on the driver's side. I was probably about 3 steps ahead of him. So I passed the passenger door as he was coming up to the driver. As he was asking the driver to get out of the vehicle, I just glanced in and I saw some AKs under a floor mat.
And the driver got out and tried to choke him. So Corporal Dunham put a knee in his chest and took him to the ground.
By the time they were going to the ground, PFC Miller and I rushed over to assist him. And PFC Miller came down with his baton.
I buried my left knee into the driver's ribs and I struck him twice with my ass, trying to subdue him because he was still struggling.
I circled around. I noticed Jason was, I thought he had lost his helmet. I noticed Jason didn't have his helmet on and was covering it up. And I came around and I was going to hit the insurgent in the head, or I was going to shoot him in the head, but I was afraid the ricochet would hit PFC Miller.
Once I get up to the SUV, I can look through the window and I can see all three of them fighting with somebody. At the time I was still scanning my sector or whatnot. Then I'm trying to ask, hey, what's going on over there?
They heard Corporal Dunham yell a warning to Miller and Hampton, no, 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 watch his hands. And then a grenade exploded.
Threw me onto my back and threw Miller up against the wall. Jason just laid there.
And all 4 of them, including the Iraqi, were all knocked out on the deck, and I thought they were all dead.
Well, immediately when the grenade went off, I thought I had 3 KIAs on my hand. I thought Corporal Dunham, Hampton, and Miller were all, because you can't get any closer to a hand grenade than that.
I started moving up a little bit closer, but Corporal Hampton and Corporal Miller, they got up and both came back. I was surprised to see them get up.
I'll never forget the looks on their faces. Miller's all burned with powder burns. Hampton's pretty messed up. You can tell that they were injured by some fragmentation. But I was just amazed that they got up.
And I could just feel rounds around me because we started taking small arms fire. So initially I tried to reach around and grab with my left arm, but because of the nerve damage, it didn't move. So my first thought was, what the f? So I reached out and grabbed it with my rifle with my right arm, and then I moved behind the Land Cruiser to get some cover from the rounds.
Then also, because of Corporal Dunham's action, he also saved the insurgent. So he was dazed and woozy and confused, and he got up and started running.
Much to Sanders' surprise, Sanders dumped a mag in him, killed him.
I was deaf. I was so close to the blast, so I was deaf, so I couldn't hear anything. All I could see is rounds ejecting out of my M16, and everything went into slow motion, and just training took over. Went down, started taking care of what I needed to take care of.
Corpsman started to bandage Miller up. He asked for me first. He was trying to bandage me up first. I said no. Miller's hit worse. Fix him.
Once I sat down and started getting medical aid, I definitely thought my mom was going to kill me because I told her I wouldn't get hurt. But
we were asking how Dunham was, and they stuck him in the Humvee and got him out of there as quick as possible. And
even though Corporal Hampton didn't want to leave the area, but I remember putting him in a Humvee, and I said, hey, things are going off in Huseba. You might have to drive through Market Street or whatnot. I know you got one bad hand. We don't have no security for you right now because there's no security in that vehicle. He was the only one in the back. I said, hey, be prepared. You see anybody come in the back of this vehicle or you get into a fight, hey, use your good hand and fire.
Staff Sergeant Ferguson was the first one to meet me, and he looked at me and he said, hey, Miller and Hampton are okay. And something about the way he said it told me that someone wasn't. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, it's Dunham. And he explained that he'd taken a grenade in the face, and his face was pretty up. He was still conscious, or he was still alive, and they'd medevaced him. So I started surveying the site, and I found a piece of Kevlar and I realized I was holding half of a helmet that had been flattened. And another Marine found the other half of the helmet on the wall that was on the north side of the road. And there was Kevlar spread over probably 25 square meter area on that road.
We had a meeting with the two doctors that were handling Jason. They informed us, excuse me, of the extent of the damage and pretty much that it was a pretty terminal type injury that he would not recover from. The state he was in now, he would have to stay on life support to survive. They could do a surgery that would relieve pressure, but it wouldn't change his status in any way. I asked the doctor if the surgery, she didn't think he would probably survive it because he wasn't strong enough, and I asked her if there was other people she could help that were going to live, that she needed to do that. And from there, they said we needed to make a decision, and we went back and sat with Jason for a few hours. The bottom line was, from the damage, there was no Jason no more. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, that is.
We'd had a talk at Christmas when he was home. He says, you know, Dad, if something happens, if I'm not there, don't let me be like that. I don't want to be a vegetable or on life support. And we'd had a discussion right on the back porch, just me and him. And that's how it was written in his will. And I guess people don't understand unless they're in the situation to lose a child, and it doesn't matter how, whether it be on the battlefield, car accident, but to this day this haunts me every day. I believe in my heart that it was the right thing to do, but my head don't let it go. I asked the doctors if he could live without
life support
respirator, and they said no. They said he'd never be conscious. The damage was too great, and I told him that I think we'd had enough of that he was more or less just in suffering at this stage. And that's when we decided that what we were going to do, our decision.
Welcome to this third ceremony in the last 2 days of recognition of a great warrior, a true American hero. This well-earned and deserved recognition began yesterday at the White House, where the President of the United States, our Commander-in-Chief, presented the Medal of Honor earned by Corporal Jason Dunham in mortal combat in Iraq.
With this medal, we pay tribute to the courage and leadership of a man who represents the best of young Americans. With this medal, we ask the God who commands us to love our neighbor as ourselves to wrap his arms around the family of Corporal Jason Dunham, a Marine who is not here today because he lived that commandment to the fullest.
This morning at the Pentagon, Dunham family made office calls on the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of the Navy, and the Assistant Commandant of the Marine Corps, followed by a ceremony in the Hall of Heroes, where Corporal Dunham was inducted, his name now being displayed on the Medal of Honor, Roll of Honor.
He gallantly gave his life for his country. Signed, George W. Bush, Commander-in-Chief.
I know Jason wouldn't want us to stop living, so we still live. And coping with it, we're together, and if somebody's having a bad day, we can talk to each other, and we know that. And we're a tight family, I guess. And so we just kind of go on because Jason wouldn't want us to stop living.
After Jason died, I was watching on a TV program one night called Miracles Happen, I believe is what it was. And it was about a teacher out in New Mexico, and she taught disabled children. And one of the little children died. And the Aztec, I believe it's the Aztec Indians, had the belief that the spirit came back in the form of butterflies. And so the teacher, after the little boy died, tried to bring something into the classroom to help the children through their grieving process. And she brought in about the butterflies. Well, eventually it became a great big butterfly house in front of the school. And the day they released all the butterflies, one of them flew over and landed on the little boy's mother's head because they had dedicated the butterfly house to the little boy that had died. And so the story was that that butterfly was the little boy's spirit coming over to the mother and letting him know it was all right. About a week later, after that, my daughter and I were sitting on the back porch, and this butterfly came flitting around, landed on me, landed on her, landed on the kids, the porch railing. I was overwhelmed with joy, I guess, because I knew that that butterfly had to be Jason coming back and telling us he was okay.
I'm a much better Marine for having been a part of the Kilo family and for knowing men like Corporal Jason Dunham.
He fit every description that you think of when you think of a Marine.
No words can describe it, I guess. I mean, just to have known somebody that achieved such greatness in his life, it's an honor.
Proud of what he did, proud to have known him, and proud to be back together with my brothers.
Made me a lot more grateful for what I have. I wouldn't be walking, I wouldn't be standing. I wouldn't have my wife, I wouldn't have my little girl on the way. He means everything.
And I just thank God that I was able to know this man and have him as a friend and a squad leader, as my leader. Best memory ever.